Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Collegiate iRacing League tonight here for round number 2 at Monza of the pilot season, round 2 of 6. And we're happy to bring you this one brought to you by nextbookit.com. Big race coming up for a lot of these drivers. Great turnout here tonight. And as always, joining me in the booth here tonight is Josh Crane. Josh, how are you doing tonight?
I am doing well. I'm happy to be in the booth. I'm really excited. We had a great turnout. We had a great show of talent in our first round at Spa, and so now I think that we're going to be doing quite well. And I'm going to be really excited to see us go to Monza and see what we can accomplish. And we've got some names that we've seen, and I think it's going to be really good.
Absolutely. So Monza, definitely one of the cooler tracks that we're going to visit here over the course of this quick 6-race season. And what's really your keys to the track at Monza? We obviously know about that turn 1 chicane. We know about both Lesmo corners being such high-speed corners and a lot of time to gain and lose in those corners. And as qualifying times come in, see a little bit of a gap between some of these guys. So talk to us what you think is going to be the important part of the track here tonight for a lot of these guys.
Well, I think we're going to see a lot of guys try and take some risk a little bit later on in that first chicane. You talked about it; it's tight. That turn one. Once we get past all the carnage and the items in turn one, there, um, that's where you're going to make up a lot of time is that right hander in turn one. Same thing in the first chicane where you can go through and cut that curb pretty well, especially in these GTE cars. There's no big issues like that. So going around and going through the chicane there on the back stretch, don't want any spinalas. It should be exciting, and then going into Parabolica, and we were seeing drivers communicate in the Discord about getting back on the gas. How early can you get back on the gas? How can you go in, slow in, fast out? And so that's where we're going to see. And these guys are pretty close in talent. It's going to be a game of inches that separates our drivers tonight. It's going to be great to watch.
Absolutely, and we're bringing to you a new look here tonight as well. You can see we've completely revamped the college iRacing leagues kind of look here tonight. Really excited to bring you guys that. Hopefully it improves your watching experience as well. But if you're joining us and you want to let us know in the chat who you're rooting for tonight, maybe something you think is important to watch here at Monza, feel free to do that, and we will get that to you shortly. So just about 5 more minutes left in qualifying, and we're going to turn it over to the sponsor of round number 2 here at Monza, and that's going to be Next Book It. And let's hear from them, and we'll be right back to the racing action.
For college students, books are expensive. Buying and selling them is frustrating, and it even hurts. We get it, but there's a better way that doesn't have to feel like this. With Next Book It, skip the bookstores and buy and sell books exclusively to other students on any campus. It's easy to use and it makes life less stressful. Buying and selling books just got easier. Just Next Book It.
So as you just saw, Next Book It is the next big thing for college students. It's a marketplace where you can buy and sell textbooks to and from other students on campuses all around the country. As an incentive to sell your books for a limited time, Next Book It is offering an extra $10 cash on top of what you make on that first book sale. And you gotta be honest, who doesn't like free money? In addition to that, use the code SAVECASH, that's SAVECASH 20, SAVECASH 20 for free shipping and no fees. What are you waiting for? Next Book It this fall.
We're super excited to have Next Book It on board. And actually, the founder, Derek, is going to be with us in the booth a little bit later on this evening. That's going to be super cool. We're going to hear it straight from the man himself, how it was born and how it's doing. Looking forward to that this evening.
Absolutely. And if you are watching and you want to join the Collegiate iRacing League, feel free to do so. You can find us on Discord or on iRacing itself. And we'll get you that information here in the chat as the race goes on. So about 4 minutes left in qualifying. Jared Kayer holding on to the pole for the time being in the BMW. And really last week we saw a wide variety of cars. Does the wide variety here at Monza surprise you a little bit?
No, I don't think so. So I think that we went to Spa. It's a very quick track. It's an open track, and these drivers aren't required to be in the same car. For the duration of the season. So, with that said, we've already spotted some different car manufacturers, drivers that have brought a different tool to the to accomplish a different task. Monza is a very straight track, a lot higher speeds, a few corners stitched together by some straightaways where drag is going to be your enemy. And then Spa has a lot of the S's and the switchbacks, and we are not going to have as many of those here tonight. Certainly not as much transition and not as much high-speed transition. So the manufacturer of car and make that these guys are going to bring tonight, we shouldn't be too surprised if it's a bit different.
Absolutely. And a couple more interesting rules with the Collegiate iRacing League. This is a 1-hour race here tonight, and we will have to make a pit stop. We've limited the fuel to a 75% of the normal fuel load. That's going to force the drivers to make one complete pit stop under green flag conditions. And that's going to play definitely a bit of a strategy. We saw it last week. A couple drivers come in a lap or two earlier, try and undercut the person either in front or behind them. And it paid off for a lot of these drivers, really. We saw a couple of them jump up a couple spots and into that top 10, and that top 10's where the money is. And here to talk about that's going to be Josh and explain really the prize pool for the Collegiate iRacing League.
Yeah, and that's very generous that Next Book has come out and made that possible. And so our top 10 drivers are getting $10, and top 20 or top 11 to 20 are getting $5. Also, the Hard Charger Award, the driver who gets the most spots in the race will also get $5. In fact, the winner gets $20, and that's a fantastic way that we've been able to take the full grid, and we've been able to reduce the barrier that is cost for a lot of the drivers and students here who are getting in iRacing. If you're familiar with iRacing, you're probably familiar with their pricing model. And so that is something that we've been able to work with Next Book It and come up with a way that the cost of the cars, the tracks, that's been mitigated a little bit for the drivers.
Absolutely. And all of this done with the intention of making it super accessible for these kind of college drivers and really get everyone up in the racing. That's why we're doing once every other week for a 1-hour race, limited time commitment, but a lot that can pay off. And we're really working with all these drivers to provide an excellent experience and bring an awesome racing product to you all at home watching over on Twitch. Hope you guys are going to enjoy this race as much as we will, as green flag just a couple minutes away now as qualifying wrapping on up. You see Kayer out there in first, Hyatt in second, and Price rounding out your top three. 3 different manufacturers making up those top 3 drivers as well.
Yeah, and that's exciting to see. We talked about the different manufacturers and seeing some different faces, especially for qualifying up there near the top. Kaler was in the top 10 last race, as was Price and Burns. In fact, John Price and Theodore Burns side by side on this grid, finished side by side in the last race at Spa, spending the better part of that 60-minute time frame together, separated by no more than about half a second. So it's good to see the new faces, good to see the old faces, and looks like the cars are going to start to grid, and we are going to get ready to go here at Monza.
Absolutely. So you see everyone lining up behind that Porsche safety car. They'll have a short pace lap and then rock and roll here on the grid. And let's go through the grid. Brought to you by nextbookit.com. So take a look. Jared Kayer going to be starting off on the pole. On his outside will be Corey Hyatt in the number 42. Rolling off third tonight is going to be John D. Price in the number 2 machine. On his outside, Theodore Evans in the 81. He starts fourth. Maximilian Bui starts in the 665 machine. He's in 5th. And Drew Bowden, our Western Michigan student, starts in 6th. KT Jones in the 57 will roll off 7th. Aaron Folkerts in the 732, he starts in 8th. Henry Morse will roll off in the 44 machine, he starts 9th. And Cohen Evans in the 17, that LMCgear.com machine, in 10th. Trey Coleman from the Virginias, the number 6 machine, rolls off 11th. And a lot of people's favorite, Alexandre Pacini, in the number 22, he starts 12th. Rounding out your grid as we continue on down, Jake Franklin will start 13th. Tillman Schmid will roll off 14th. James Blausch in the 87 starts 15th. Andrew Covell will roll off 16th. Joshua Crane has entered the race, but he's obviously up here in the booth, so ignore that one. Ashwin Sager will roll off 18th. Cody Fadenhauer, great name, will roll off 19th. And rounding out our 20-car field here tonight is Jaron Valley. He's in the 111 as we get set to bring you the race here tonight from Monza, round 2 of a 6-round pilot season as we get ready to rock and roll here at Monza.
That's correct. The drivers are away, idling up, warming up their tires. Monza, we start on the backstretch, and it will be a rolling start to the green flag. Things to watch for: keep an eye out for turn 1. It's the largest gaggle of cars we're going to have all night. We're going to shoehorn them into that first tight, slow right-hander and back into the left. And then once everyone has breathed a sigh of relief there, we're going to have to start thinking about that first chicane, officially turn 2. That's going to be exciting because it's going to be a little bit quicker. Again, guys trying to get through there. Tires are cold, cars might slide, and we'll see who runs off. Monza does have runoff areas at most of the corners. However, you can have some damage if you run over some of those tough sausage curves. That can damage the underbody of your car. That means maybe no downforce, maybe hard to turn, maybe even a big loss of top speed. And we spoke about how important that was at the top of the show.
You're going to see some great paint schemes here tonight. The pace car is going to take a right-hand turn on a pit lane, and we're going to get set to go here at Monza. You see the lights at the top of your screen, emulating the real-world lights that we're going to see here. Spotter, or the flagman, getting ready to wave the green flag, and the 58 of Jerry Kay are going to lead us to the green flag. Green flag in the air from Monza, and we're underway as they head toward that turn 1 chicane.
He is. Here they go down the side, 2x2, no 3 wide yet, as we are under heavy braking for the first chicane. 2x2. You see John Price in the Porsche moves up very close to the Colorado School of Mines car as they go through. Most of our drivers unscathed, and when there's trouble through the first turn, a little bit of a hiccup towards the rear.
It looks like Tillman Schmid getting turned around, our Virginia Tech driver. Looks like he's no worse for wear. Jake Franklin in that WPI machine might have a little bit of damage right there. And wrecking in front of him, it looks like Pacini involved.
And it was, as well as the USC car, Maximilian Bui. You saw there he towed in the Ferrari as we watched VCU and Indiana go through Varianta Ascari and down onto the backstretch.
Checking back in with your leader, Jared Kayer, pulling away, and a big stack up back behind him. It's Price, Hyatt, Burns, and Folkerts. Positions 2 through 5. You're going to watch those on the left side of your screen juggle back and forth as we continue in this one.
Absolutely. There we see Price as well as the Colorado School of Mines. Theodore Burns, we talked about those two starting together, Price and Burns side by side, and already they are close, but one with an advantage over the other. And looks like we are going to single file our way down into the final turn, Parabolica, as we see the Corvette there. Looks like the Indiana machine pull out to make a move into the final turn.
Single file back down the front straightaway for a bunch of these drivers. And you see really that top 10, top 9, top 10, all single file. Everyone pretty much surviving the first lap. And that's the name of the game, especially in a race like this, where it's that 1 hour in length. They do have one fast repair, meaning that if they get damage to the car, they can come down pit lane and all the damage is pretty much forgiven and fixed. So be sure to keep that in mind, especially for a couple of those guys who might have had a little bit of trouble, and all that done with the intention of keeping as many drivers in the race as possible. We want everyone to feel like they're able to keep going, so definitely an incentive to keep on driving, especially with that money for not only finishing the race, but finishing the season in the top 10.
That's correct, and you see the Corvette there take that curb quite severely going through, and you want to make sure when you grab that curb, grab it and save time, but don't damage your car too quick. That can be a little bit difficult. So we'll see how everyone gets on. We talked about Jake Franklin. He made the show a couple times last 2 weeks ago at Spa, and so we'll watch him as we try and see if he can move up this evening. It does look like our first retirement has come in the form of Max Bouy. We talked about him in the USC car. And I believe that Ferrari has been taken behind the garage, maybe doing a little impersonation of their Formula One team. No, Jarrett?
Absolutely, and one of only 3 Ferraris we're going to see here tonight. Theodore Burns up there in 3rd. He's trying to battle for that podium spot right now as they're going to go side by side down the front straightaway. Burns and Hyatt heading toward turn 1.
That is correct, and it's a battle of horsepower now. Turbocharged V8 in the Ferrari and turbocharged V6 in the Ford. Who can brake later? It looks like it will be the Ferrari as he takes most of the curb and the position into the first turn. A good spot of driving by these guys, and Jarrett, I continue to be impressed by the cleanliness of the racing that we've had. It is a pleasure to call this up here.
Absolutely, and I was going to mention that last week, such a clean race, and really a couple of tougher tracks that we go to. First of all, Spa with that hard right-hander for turn 1, and then Monza where everyone seems to almost dread that turn 1 chicane. It's so hard. You see it in official races all the time. Guys just plowing into the back ends of the car in front of them, and we had a relatively very clean start here tonight, and that's an absolute testament to the skill of these drivers that we have here in the Collegiate iRacing League.
It is, and I'm excited for what's shaping up here. We have Aaron Folkert chasing down Corey here. 2 of our top 10 finishers we saw. In fact, you can see Folkert pulling out to make a move. I'm sorry, that's the BMW, I believe, of Henry Morse. That's the 44 machine as they go side by side into the S's. Oh, we talked about cleanliness. It wasn't quite there. I don't think there was room for 3 cars.
Morse might have got a little bit of help right there from Pacini, maybe Cohen Evans as well. The BMW a little bit slow. He's going to get passed right there by Tillman Schmid. And now looking to take advantage is going to be Jake Franklin trying to make his way back up towards the front.
Jake Franklin, we talked about his race start. He's doing a great job of doing the work that's been cut out for him. You see actually a little bit of battle back here as the 2 BMWs head down the main straight across the line.
They're going to go side by side down the front straightaway and heading toward that turn 1 chicane again. We'll see if Jake Franklin gives the position. It looks like he will for the time being. Maybe a little bit of trouble in front. Thought we saw something. I was incorrect. Schmid hanging on. Franklin holds on to that position. He's got Morse behind him, but Morse not willing to give it up just yet.
That is correct, and I'm seeing a difference in top speed. It looked like that Morse was a little bit quicker through the corners, and Franklin on the straightaway. That tells me that in that little altercation, I bet that the 44 machine of Morse picked up some aero damage, and that's going to hurt him around this track. We talked about how fast Monza is.
Riding along with Henry Morse here as you see him following that WPI. Really working that steering wheel in the BMW. Car might be a little bit loose still, trying to warm up those tires and really find the speed here early as you see him working those curves, continuing to follow in the draft of that WPI machine. And on a track like Monza with so many of these straightaways, you can kind of afford to use that draft. You see him right now going side by side, heading into Ascari.
That's correct, and Franklin looks like Morse even had to check up a little bit. That's tough when you come into that turn, such a fast set of transition at that speed. Great onboard here as we go down into the final turn with the 44 machine. And it does look like Jake Franklin is a man on a mission this evening.
You see the hard braking right there, able to get on the curb and get right back on the accelerator. You're going to see the lap times across the left side of your screen. And Jared Kayer starting to run away with it out in that BMW up front.
He is. Jared Kaler is on a mission, and I will point out that P2 and P3 have changed hands. We talked about Theo Burns and John Price, and Burns now has taken the second position in that matte black Ferrari for the University of Wisconsin.
You see right in front of him, Kayer in that UNC Charlotte machine, rocking through the chicane there. Pretty nice looking rims there as well, matching with that kind of tan color. Good looking paint scheme right there. And a lot of these drivers with such excellent paint schemes, and that was one thing that was offered as we debuted the Collegiate iRacing League, is free paint schemes. One of those paint schemes that was made by myself is John D. Price in that University of Texas Arlington machine, and he's done a fantastic job at making that paint scheme look a lot better than it might be, holding in third place in that Porsche, and he's having a good run. Great run last week and another good one here this week.
He is. You know, I respect that he stuck to his guns. The Porsche played well at Spa 2 weeks ago because of how nimble it is and all the fast transitions there. And we didn't expect it to be such a force here. This is not a track that would favor the mechanics of the Porsche, but he's hanging in there. He is currently running third, hanging on to that podium. You can see that black car, that Ferrari, is not pulling away. Mr. Price is right there behind him.
Good look from the tail end of Theodore Burns' machine here in that 81, that matte black, and boy, does that car look good. It looks even better when it's in second spot. But you saw those lap times across the left side of your screen. John D. Price a little bit quicker, and that draft ever so important here at Monza, and you got to start thinking keeping that car clean is paramount. And a little bit of trouble for Alexandre Pacini on that last corner. A little bit of damage to the front right side of that 22 machine.
I see that. Alexander Pacini, one of our few Ferrari residents here. It looks like he's trying to chase down the Indiana machine, the Corvette there. And not sure what caused that, but we'll keep an eye on him and see how he gets along this evening. Corey Hiat now at 5th place, negotiating a bit of traffic. One of the VCU BMWs and a couple cars and a train are all trying to get through the corners together, the two at the top of the track. And it's a tough, especially when you have to be patient. You have to wait for everybody to negotiate the turns together.
That UNLV car of KT Jones, he had an interesting little touch-up last week, had a little bit of contact with one of the other drivers, and both UNLV drivers looked very strong at the start of the race. Both had a little bit of trouble in the middle, but made their way up toward the top 10 for the end of that race, so they're trying to rebound here tonight. And what a beautiful paint scheme for them as well. I feel like I'm going to say that all night long, really, about how many drivers just have these great paint schemes, and they're really buying into this league.
Absolutely. It's great to see the craftsmanship both on the racetrack and on the sides of these cars as we watch Jared Kaler patiently go through the first turn there, and he is in a league of his own. We talked about Spa. He was up front, and so he has found his setup for his BMW. Here, the UNC Charlotte driver is comfortably in the lead and probably just starting to do those mental fuel calculations. There is a pit stop, and he's thinking about when does he want to come to pit road? How does he want to negotiate that traffic? We see him take these curbs. That's what these GTE cars can do. They don't mind those curbs as much as some of the prototypes, and it shows here as they try and get some time through those corners.
Trouble for John D. Price right here as he's going to go around in the second chicane. You see him whipping that car back on around to get back onto the track. We just mentioned how well the Porsche was running. He's going to spin out into the grass. And that's where that fast repair is going to come in. And now as a driver like Price, you know you have the speed. You got to start to figure out, when do I pit? At what point do I need to pit to get that car fixed on up? Because he does have that fast repair in his pocket.
Absolutely, and that's something that these guys have for this league. Each driver gets one fast repair, especially for this league. Life comes at you fast, and so Now he's thinking about, does he change his pit strategy? Does he try to get that fast repair on sooner? How much damage does he have? I couldn't tell if he hit anything or maybe he just escaped. In fact, I see as he comes by the booth, might have a little bit of damage to the front splitter. So that will figure into his calculations as well.
Jared Kayer, he's going to sneak by James Bloch right behind him. He's going to be the first car a lap down on your screen. Jared Kayer up there in the lead, sneaking on by Mr. Bloch in the 87. And once again, we go back to how well these drivers are able to behave, really. We've never had any kind of lap traffic causing any kind of trouble, and that's, once again, just a testament to how smart these drivers are and how well they're able to control the cars, especially at such a challenging track like Monza, where you have those high braking zones, you have those high speed corners, and really all these drivers really making it work here tonight.
No, absolutely. We're seeing in fact those cars go over. Looks like the School of Minor, the 42 machine. Wonder if that was a cut, Collegiate. We'll have to see if that was a cut on an off track. If you exceed the track limits, then you will be handed an off track. 17 of those incident points, and then drivers will be given a drive-through penalty. There is no disqualification, but there will be a drive-through for every 10 thereafter. But we will see as these guys try and push the track limits, how many will push too far, and then how many might accrue too many points. That's something we've talked about, especially if you spin, that's 2 incident points. And if you make contact with another competitor, as we see a little bit of damage on the splitter of that BMW, that's 4 incident points. And so that's something that these drivers will have to be cognizant of as well.
Absolutely. And as we start looking at that time interval ticking on, we're approaching that 15-minute mark out of the 1 hour. Like we mentioned, it is a 1 hour timed race, so we don't have a set number of laps. You'll see everybody run 1 hour, and whatever that lap number is, they'll finish the race on that lap. So it provides a little bit more interesting of a dynamic. You're not going to see a lap count like in a Formula One or a NASCAR. Instead, we're going with the 1 hour, similar to an IMSA race.
That is correct. And so all these drivers know when the start line and when the finish is. If you are a NASCAR fan and you're tired of green, white checkers and not knowing how much fuel to put in the car, rest assured, these guys know where the finish line is. We are almost 20 minutes into the 60-minute race. Field now starting to settle out a little bit as we see some more drivers hop those curbs, trying to get their best advantage. Your top 10, Jared Kaler in the UNC Charlotte machine, Theo Burns, Aaron Folkerts, Corey Hitt, KT Jones for UNLV, coming back from his spa experience, Cohen Evans, John Price after that spin in 7th place, Alexandre Pacini, our front-running, or actually second-place Ferrari, our front-running Ferrari is Theo Burns in the Ferrari this week. Henry Morse in 9th, and Tilmid Schmid in 10th. That is your top 10.
Good battle going on right here for that 10th spot. Tillman Schmid and Jake Franklin. These two have been locked in nose to tail for quite a bit of the race. And they continue to battle here as they go through that final chicane. A little bit of a quicker chicane. That one very tough because that car wants to slide, and you got to kind of let it slide out toward that outside retaining wall, up and over that curbing. Not going to hurt the car, that one, as much as that turn 1 chicane. Josh talked about that sausage-like curb. Some might call it turtles. And you definitely don't want to hit those with these GTE cars, as it's going to not only upset the car, but you do run the risk of damaging the car in the future as well, as they fly down the front straightaway battling for 10th.
That is correct, and I think someone who's gotten used to that damage, Henry Morse in 9th, we talked about. He got a little bit sideways in the S's and has come back. I think he's got used to his car, maybe warmed up those tires again as we ride on board through turn 1, back out as we take a little detour off track. I think he has figured that car out, and he's allowed those racers behind him to race and putting a little bit of a gap there.
You see a good look right here in that rear view camera in the middle of the BMW. Just how quick they're closing. And boy, that camera got filled up by Tillman Schmid right there going into this chicane. Schmid a little bit loose off the corner, and that's what you see, that patience getting into the corner and it really paying off on the corner exit. And you'll hear that a lot with road racing, that slow in, fast off kind of mentality. And obviously there's a little bit of give and take with it, but a driver who might send it in there like that really got to hold on to it. And you might see some of the front guys be able to do that, but Tillman Schmid not able to complete it, and he's actually going to lose the spot to Jake Franklin as they run 11th and 12th.
That is correct, and looks like the Hoosier Corvette trying to get around and struggling in the final turn to get around, and has now done so. James Blouch in his fellow Corvette, but the Hoosier now back on the front stretch after flashing his lights a few times. He might have had some opinions on that maneuver.
So Blouch in the 87, you see the 17 of Cohen Evans sneaking on by him. You see all those drivers' intervals to the next driver in front of them displayed on the left side of your screen. And to the leader, Blouch still the first car, 1 lap down. Everyone else still on the lead lap, that top 12. Blouch, Fadenhauer, Sager, Coleman, Bowen, and Bui all have multiple laps down. And they're trying to sneak their way back into this race.
That is correct, as we follow now our leader, Jared Kaler, continuing to open up that gap. You see second place come off the corner there. I do see that James Franklin, from our vantage point in the booth, has closed the gap a little bit on Henry Morse, and not sure if he's got a special setup or if he's found something new, but he has definitely flipped a switch. We talked about it earlier, and he's hit the next level, starting to catch that Henry Morse machine after we discussed that he may be pulling away a little bit.
So Franklin starting to reel in Henry Morse. Morse with that little bit of damage from that early race incident, like Josh had mentioned. And it'll be curious to see how this race shakes up after this round of pit stops, which is going to be quickly approaching here as we approach halfway in the race. Some of the drivers will take halfway as the time to pit. Other drivers will not. Some will try and stretch it. We should be able to stretch about 40 minutes on a fuel run. We'll see how that shakes things up throughout the race. You're going to see some drivers' names in blue on your timing screen. Those are drivers who are a lap down, and sometimes they're going to flash red. That's while we're following along with a lap down car. You see right now we're following along with James Blouch in that 87. He is a lap down, so all the drivers in front of him names now turn red, meaning they're a lap or more ahead of the leader.
That is correct, and so we'll see here all the guys running through, and it is interesting to watch. Sometimes the leader will have to make their way by lap traffic and positions 2 and 3, and sometimes they get cut some slack, but as the lap cars start seeing positions 5, 7, 10, and 13 slide on by, they get less forgiving. So it is interesting to see how these guys navigate the lap traffic and where they take. And we talked about waiting your turn, especially through the S's. It is tough to be side by side, have to wait back out. We saw how that affected Tillman Schmid and Jake Franklin in their race, and so that's always something to watch on these tracks.
Looking back from the leader, Jared Kaler, out in that 58 UNC Charlotte machine. He's off to a pretty good gap. You see it 3.2 seconds back there to second place. Continuing to run. We're now 21 minutes through this 1 hour race, so we've approached about the 1/3 mark here tonight. And that's a great time to bring in our special guest to the booth here tonight, Derek, the founder of NextBookIt.com, here to talk to us a little bit about what he has going on with that company. Derek, welcome to the booth here tonight. Great of you to join us here.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here, and this is actually a a pretty good race to watch. Excited to watch Monza here because a lot of precision braking at a track like this, so it can get pretty technical.
It is, and we are equally thrilled and enthralled. So we'll start at the beginning. Tell us about Next Book It. As the founder, how did you come up with this? Where was this born from?
Sure. I right about a year and a half ago started with Next Book. It actually it feels like such a blur. I was about to say a year, and then it's like, geez, it actually has been 18 months at this point. uh, anyway, one of my friends, Adam, and I were just kind of discussing kind of this problem that we all experience as current college students or as former college students, etc. And it's buying and reselling books. And unfortunately, we just kind of bite the bullet and resell them back to the bookstore or get what we can for them online. There's no really solidified marketplace for them, or it'll get buried in places like Facebook Marketplace if you try to sell it there, and some people don't have good luck. And anyway, so trying to find a solution all those sort of problems and make one central location for college students to kind of engage in a sort of resale marketplace like this. Kind of Next Book It was born out of that, and it's been quite a journey, but really excited to be where we are now. We've got a solid team together, a couple of ambassadors and student interns, and one other partner in the company. So that's really exciting. Things are moving up for us as we really get set to launch this and market this really nationwide.
Well, that's fantastic. And Jarrett and I were in school for a little bit and have since graduated. And I agree that there is no fantastic way to get your books without going broke. It's a tough world out there. We spoke earlier, and you said you were a big race fan, and that was how you got plugged in with CIL. And tell us more about that. Where did the love of racing come from? What's the background? Tell us.
Yeah, so I've always kind of been around racing my whole life, whether or not I've been actively involved or not. Just kind of keep up with it because my family growing up ran dirt circle track cars, and both my dad and my brother, and then my brother was also involved in motocross for a little bit. So just kind of all forms of racing I've been exposed to during my life. And as a kid, I remember whenever I think it was early middle school, finally got like cable or satellite. I can't remember which one at my house, but before that, really, I mean, it was like NASCAR was the thing you would find on one of the big four networks most commonly. And so that as far as mainstream racing, that's what I watched the most. And then started getting like ESPN, and of course NASCAR in the at that time period was on Fox and TNT and stuff. But Speed and all those networks and ESPN, I was able to start getting acquainted with Formula One and kind of fell in love with that at that point. And then did some shifter kart racing myself in late middle school and early high school, but unfortunately that got too expensive. But yeah, I've always really had an affinity for racing and enjoy following it even to this day. So
Oh, that's awesome, and super proud to have you on board, have Next Book It on board. We spoke at the top of the hour about the different things we're doing through scholarship programs as well as race winnings to make this league available to these drivers. We appreciate your efforts and all those at Next Book It for what they're doing with our league as well as for college students across the nation.
yes, and I'm excited to be a part of this as well, because I think too is I've seen sim racing really kind of take off in the past 3 or 4 years, big time, just because, and I think this pandemic made it take off even more so. But I think it's a much more affordable entryway, particularly people that are just kind of getting exposed to racing. And I mean, racing having any kind of PC, that's a good entryway to kind of get some any kind of involvement into it. And so I'm excited to be a part of this as well.
It is the all the circumstances around this time and the growth of sim racing in its own right have come together certainly this year. And I think you said it. Simulation and the amount of realism that we've been able to bring to our offices and living rooms and home setups is really showing us a new set of talent, skill set. And it carries over. We have a number of drivers that you'll see that are either engineers or drivers themselves in their spare time in different areas and arenas. So it's absolutely fantastic to be a part of it, to be able to create an arena where other drivers can represent their school's colors.
Definitely. And so I'm really excited to be a part of what y'all have going on here. And this is really cool. And I think awesome that y'all are able to kind of bring that collegiate competition to something like iRacing as well. So kudos to y'all for keeping this going and getting this started.
Well, thank you. It was an idea we had, and we're really excited that other people find it as amusing as we do, and something we're looking to grow and um, be amused by as we go through and we broadcast and we see these guys come through from different time zones, different continents, and come together. We talked about virtual racing and the same plane here.
And I think that's incredible, especially that y'all are already getting a global attention for a league like this. And so I definitely keep at it. And I think this is an incredible league that has a lot of growth potential.
Well, thank you. And so we'll see what happens next as we approach the halfway point of this race. Everyone, that was Derek McCurry, who was here, the founder and master of Next Book It, your source for college textbooks and material. And Jarrett, I think the drivers are thinking about pit stops.
Definitely, we're approaching that halfway point in the race here, like you just mentioned. And for a lot of these drivers, splitting it in half, pretty much the simplest way to do it. We will see some drivers take tires. We might not see everybody take tires. Last week, when we went to Spa, it was a very hot track. A couple of drivers wanted to take tires. They may or may not have. We saw a lot of guys do take tires. So would not be surprised if we see even more take tires here as you're watching a big battle go on for second between Corey Hyatt and Aaron Folkerts right behind him. Folkerts had taken away that second spot, but gave it right back up to our only Ford in the field, Corey Hyatt, and he's showing out for that American manufacturer right there.
That is correct. And we see the Ford Chevy battle coming through the final turn, accelerating off the corner and going into the front stretch. And you can see that Ford, not a big power car. It's a turbocharged V6, the Ford EcoBoost machine. But nonetheless, he finds himself in second place, thanks certainly in part to the aerodynamic performance of that car, the way that the cabin pulls the air in behind the car. That's a car, that can get up behind that Corvette. Folkerts was in front, and he drafted to be behind him. But the Ford does not return the favor. It's got that the air that comes in behind it, and about 40 or 50% of that air. So if you're following the Ford GT and iRacing, don't expect a big drafting effect.
Absolutely, and that's what's so cool about iRacing. You kind of mentioned it in talking with Derek there for a moment. Just how realistic that the simulation can tend to be. And you mentioned the difference in these drivers, not only abilities kind of showing up, but the cars. Last weekend, we saw a lot kind of different spread of cars. A BMW might handle differently than a Corvette, and Josh talked about you're not locked into one car. So a car that might handle very well on these long straightaways, it might be a very draft dependent car you might use at a situation like Monza, but maybe you have to switch it up for another race later in the season, depending where we go. Le Mans, a very tough track, and it does have those extremely long straightaways, so you might have to do that as well.
That's correct, and we can talk about a third variable, the driver. So you've got your track, you've got your car, the simulations all look good. However, if you're not comfortable in the BMW or you don't think that the Porsche is something that you can brake consistently, that's a drawback. That's a bigger lap time and maybe even inconsistency where we see that consistency is key in addition to speed. You really want to be able to do the same thing repeatedly, and so it's what car are you comfortable in as a driver, and what car is going to be quick around the track that you're going to. Um, as we see, looks like John Price and Theo Burns together. I'm sorry, that is Theo Burns making a pass on Andrew Covell in the Porsche. Paint scheme had me for just a moment.
Absolutely, and Andrew Covell, another one of those paint schemes provided by the Collegiate iRacing League. So those two are the paint schemes that were offered for free. And like we said, with this being a pilot season, a 6-race season, all about the driver in this season, trying to make it as exciting and as good of an experience for everyone behind the wheel here tonight. And hope it's a good experience for you guys watching here at home as well. As we flash you back to the battle between Aaron Folkerts and Corey Hyatt, both of them apparently experiencing a little bit of internet issue there, as you see Folkerts kind of tuck out and away. And that's one of the caveats of racing online, is for some people, sometimes they might have a little bit of a hiccup, and you might see that car kind of disappear and come back, and Aaron Folkerts proving that a little bit here tonight.
Yeah, that's sometimes, even if you watch a lot of streamers, sometimes you'll see cars blinking in and out. Um, that's that's part of the game. As we come down the front stretch here, we're looking at the Ford of Hyatt, Aaron Folkerts, we talked about, and KT Jones in the UNLV Corvette. Certainly doing his family proud, and the UNLV Rebels, I believe, as he takes that curve and comes off turn one.
As we take a look at our pit strategy screen here, you see Burns, Theodore Burns there, has already completed his pit stop. Pretty good looking graphic right here. You can see he's the only one with that little blue bar right there, indicating that he has gone down for his pit stop, and he should be able to go the rest of the way. So Theodore Burns employing a strategy we thought we'd see at Spa. We're definitely seeing it with him, and that's undercutting. And what undercutting is pitting before a couple other cars, and you're now, in essence, saving time.
That is correct, and we talked about Price with that, or I'm sorry, Burns with that spin in the Porsche. That's possible, and so maybe he wanted to go through and get that set up. As we see Jake Franklin in the grass. In fact, we see the Ferrari as well of Alexander Piccini. Have a request for the P3, P4 fight. We'll keep an eye on that. That's Aaron Folkerts and KT Jones as they make their way down the backstretch right now into the final turn, Parabolica. And suddenly a bit of excitement, Jared, on the track in different parts.
Absolutely, and it's always so funny how these cars start to spread on out, and then they all find a way to manage to group right back together. As we saw everyone go single file and start racing their race, and now we have Corey Hyatt, Aaron Folkerts, and KT Jones. All three of them mixing it on up. Here's the 57 in the UNLV. That's Jones pretty much looking on in this battle, trying to catch the two in front of him. He's going to have a pretty good shot at it here before this one's said and done. And we'll see with the line of cars like this, when someone pits, do you jump down pit road no matter what, or do you try and go an extra lap? We'll have to wait and see on that one.
Well, that's anybody's guess, right? If you stay out. In fact, it looks like Alexander Piccini again facing the wrong way on trying to find, I believe, in the S's. Looks like he's had a Spinala, unfortunately. The Ferraris in this race continuing to mimic their F1 counterparts. But we talked about the pit stop as well as, when do you want to undercut? Do you want to follow someone's draft? Do you think someone's holding them up and you want to have an outlap and you want to have a really great lap and get ahead of them? That's something that the drivers are going to have to decide, figure out. Believe I misspoke earlier. Theodore Burns was in the Ferrari, was not in the Porsche that spun. That was John Price. And we'll have to keep an eye on the front end of his car to see if he takes that fast repair when he comes down pit road.
Absolutely. And why wouldn't you at this point? 37 minutes into the race, you can get fuel, you can get a fresh race car, and you can be good to go the rest of the way. And we mentioned kind of about 40 minutes being about that time when you're going to have to start bringing the car in. Jared Kaler laying down a 146.9, and that is an excellent lap time, 22 laps into this stint. We'll see what lap he's going to have to bring it on in. Corey Hyatt even faster with a 146.5. So second place Hyatt starting to close in on that leader just a little bit in that Ford Josh mentioned. Not as quick in the draft as you'll see some of these other cars, especially the Porsche and maybe the Ferrari as well. But Corey Hyatt making the most of that Ford, and that's so cool to see. We have a BMW in first, a Ford in second, and a Corvette in third. And if you look at that, 3, 4, 5, all Corvettes, and all doing very well. And we mentioned those three continuing to battle, and it's kind of funny that all three are in the same manufacturer as well.
Absolutely. It's apples to apples, and iRacing looking quite good as we go through Ascari there. Looks like the Hoosier car having a little bit of a tough time in the S's, and looks like we'll go through, and looks like, I believe that's John Price, the Porsche, exiting pit road, if I see the paint right.
You are correct. John Price choosing to come down pit lane. I forgot that the tires get cold on pit lane, and when they get cold, they're not going to break as well right there. The number 2 car sliding over those couple of sausages in that turn 1 chicane, but looks a lot better than the car did before that pit stop, using that fast repair and trying to get that Porsche up towards that top 5, maybe even towards that top 3 before the race is over.
That's right. Road racing, the podium is the mark of success. And we'll have to see. It looked like he did take his fast repair. It looked like his front end was flat across the ground as he rode over those sausages at the end of the front stretch. So we'll have to see how his lap times and performance stack up.
3 cars down pit lane, 4 cars down pit lane as Kaler stays out. But you see right there, Hyatt, Fulkerts, Jones, and Evans all on pit lane, all trying to get the cars serviced and get out there as quick as possible. And we'll see how that pays off. It looks like all of them going fuel only here at Monza.
Fuel only, no tires, and that's all right. Keep those tires hot. New tires, they don't wear that much, and they will take several laps. They come up to temp. It looks like these drivers are hustling, and we see a lot of cars separated by a half second or a full second, and you can make that up easily on pit road as we see the gaggle come out. And this will be the sprint to the end. I'm very excited to see how this plays out. The Corvette of Fulkerts coming through, followed by the School of Mines, Corey Hyatt. And it looks like the UNLV car has gained that position, the Corvette of KT Jones.
So KT Jones in a pretty good spot right here. He's gained 4 spots since the start. Aaron Fulkerts right now in the spot to take that hard charger award. We talked about that award at the top of the broadcast. Passing the most positions from the start to the finish. He's gained 6. And actually, as soon as we say that, Andrew Covell gained 7 positions since the start. So pay attention to that as this race goes on. But this battle going to heat up off of pit road as you're looking at KT Jones right now. He's got Corey Hyatt right behind him. And Cohen Evans, haven't mentioned his name a lot here tonight. He's now up in the mix, sitting in 5th.
Absolutely. We've seen a little bit of shuffle in John Price in that Porsche. 6th place. We saw him take that fast repair. Looks like Jared Kaler on pit road for full service.
He's going to get to that number 1 pit stall, and now's the time to make up a lot of ground for these 2nd through 5th right here. We'll see how much can they gain, how close can they get to our leader, Mr. Kaler, before he gets off of pit road. And right behind him, it looks like there's a little bit of trouble right there for that all-black machine.
Looks like Theodore Burns in the Ferrari. We've spoken about him all night. It looks like he has already been to pit road, tried the undercut, and might consider that fast repair a bit of aerodynamic damage to that Ferrari.
And that is going to be tough for Theodore Burns right there. Is having a good race, but a lot of damage to that Ferrari. He's going to try and keep it on out there for the time being, but that's going to be a tough car to drive as you see him head down that front straightaway.
It will be, and you wonder if his top speed is all right, if his steering wheel's pulling to the left or right. That's going to be pretty tough. So in fact, it looks like a little bit squirrely under braking as we ride on board. And how about these changes? We think of Spa and we think of John Price as well as Burns running together the entire race, flawless. And each of them showing a bit of character on off tracks here. And it's interesting to see different car choices, different track, different day of the week. These guys, everyone is human out here. So except for our leader, Jared Kaler, who continues to have quite a comfortable gap.
9.5 seconds. You see it on the left side of your screen right there, and that's a huge gap with just over 15 minutes to go here at Monza, but definitely not out of the woods just yet. We'll see if he can maintain that, or if maybe Folkerts and Jones have a little something left in the tank. And speaking of that, a lot of these drivers will use some kind of software to calculate the fuel for them and get just the right amount of fuel. So you're going to see drivers run all the way until the end on that single tank of fuel that they just got. Might not be a full tank either, and that's going to have the car perform just a little bit differently. It might slide a little more in the corners, being weighed down a little bit less by all that fuel that you would have on a full tank at the start of the race.
That's correct, and we speak of car differences again. The Porsche's rear engine machine and the fuel tank is in the front. Put all that weight in the front, and that car may actually be a little bit tighter, be a little bit more prone to understeer. Think about the BMW. We think about the fuel in the back, the engine in the front. We add weight to the back, and sometimes that can be a little bit loose. Depending on how your car is handling, sometimes that's good or bad, but up to the driver as we ride on board, and it looks like Colorado School of Mines making a move up the inside. UNLV not giving an inch, and trouble as we go through turn 2, and it looks like the winner will be the Hoosier, that I believe is Cohen Evans, the Indiana Corvette, passing the UNLV Corvette. A big moment there for our 3 drivers.
Corey Hyatt in the Ford cannot be happy about that one. Goes side by side and just not able to avoid the contact with KT Jones. And the Ford car now under attack from John D. Price. We mentioned Price at the top of the broadcast. He kind of dropped down back quite a bit through the middle of that race, but he's making his way right back on up. And you can see how stacked together really this second position through about 6th or 7th really is as we head toward the finish of this one.
Absolutely, and if you're these 4 cars that came out of the pits together, you might say, man, we are behind the leader and we want to draft and stick together. As you can see, that's not the case. As Price pulls out, makes a move side by side into Parabolica, he will nearly complete the move, and I think he will by the time he exits the turn. And you do wonder if Corey Hyatt has a little bit of damage in that Ford GT.
Trying to break up the air right there is Price. Going to the outside. Might slide back to the inside. And Hyatt tucking that nose right underneath the spoiler. And they're going to go side by side into turn 1.
Side by side, heavy braking into turn 1. And Hyatt, I think, learned that sometimes braking is difficult. And lets the UT Austin machine go by. He's now going to regroup. I do think the way he gathered back up to that Porsche, I think it's just a matter of draft. I think Hyatt knows that, and I don't think we are done with that battle yet.
So this battle rages on. Let's take you through our top 10 here, brought to you by Next Book It. Jared Kaler has really led all race long. He's had a fantastic run in that 58 machine, that BMW, no damage on it, and started on the pole, and he's led nearly every single lap here. And Kaler looking very strong. Don't know if anyone has the speed to catch him. Folkert's back there in second. Is going to try and be the man to do it. He's in that 732. And we've seen Folkert's kind of bounce between that second spot all the way back to maybe 4th or 5th. really coming on to his own here. 10 seconds back, so going to need a small miracle to catch on up. Cohen Evans sits in third in that Chevrolet Corvette, and kind of a banged up car, but he's proven that he's making it work. That's so cool to see right there. You see a little bit of damage to the front end of that 17 machine, but has gained 7 positions, sitting pretty for that hard charger award.
He is, and behind him is the UNLV machine of KT Jones. We spoke about him. Yeah, I had a good performance at Spa in the Ford GT, and decided to pick up the Corvette, come here, and is on a mission looking at that 4th place, and certainly has the equipment to make a run at Evans for that final podium position. Moving on back to P5 and 6, we'll say it together. Price and Hyatt were in a battle, and just recently through the S's, School of Mines, Hyatt had gone through and made the pass, and then got a little bit hot. In fact, right here, and had taken a detour through the center there. So a little bit tough for him. It looks like Price now starting to open the gap. You do wonder if Hyatt has some floor damage.
Theodore Burns back there in 7th. He's in that 81 matte black Ferrari, and his Ferrari buddy Alexandre Pacini trying to chase him down, knowing that the driver in front of him has quite a bit of damage to that machine. And Pacini's Ferrari not looking too bad right there. And once again, another good-looking paint scheme here tonight as Pacini sitting 8th. He's in the money. Going to try and pick up another couple spots before this one's over. Carrying on down your driver list, Henry Morse in the number 44, that BMW. We saw him have a little bit of an incident earlier, and he's got Tillman Schmid in his rear view mirror, trying to hold off Schmid for the time being. But Morse currently sitting in 9th. Once again, another driver in the money. And your final driver in that top 10, Tillman Schmid in that Virginia Tech machine. And I'm pretty biased, but I really like that gray as that primary color on that machine. It's got a little bit of grass on the front grille, it looks like, too. So Schmid doing a little bit of decorating on that front bumper.
A dynamic paint scheme it is, and I do like that Virginia Tech car. Always easy to spot from a distance in the booth. And you can see that distance right there to Morse. Not getting too big, not getting too small. We now follow along with the other Porsche, I believe Andrew Koval making his way through the S's.
Koval in 11th, one of those iRacing schemes provided by the CIL here. And off in the distance, you see Jake Franklin. Franklin kind of had an up and down little day, involved in a couple earlier incidents. He's kind of holding on as we approach 10 minutes to go here at Monza. Let's take you through the rest of the field. Trey Coleman in one of the VCU cars, and as a team, they might have the best paint schemes of anyone here tonight. I'm a little biased. I think Drew Bowden might be up there as well. But Trey Coleman and the rest of the VCU team, a very good-looking team. James Blausch in the 87. He continues to ride along in his Chevrolet right there. That black and gold. I believe that's that USC machine. We'll get a good look at it here. There you go. California State Chico machine. A little black stripe on the side. Ashwin Sager in the 33 in that BMW. Another one of those VCU cars rides along 15th. And that does it for drivers out on the track. Cody Fadenhauer, Drew Bowden, and Maximili Bui have all pulled it behind the wall. And let's catch you back in up with the leaders. Jared Kaler continuing to put a gap on Folkerts right behind him. Folkerts trying to fend off the battle from Evans, Price, and Jones. You see that battle starting to really rage on.
It looks like it's raged on the front of some of these cars. I see a little bit of dirt fly up from the 57. I see a little bit of wrinkled fenders. Looks like the Porsche is going to make a move on the VCU car as he's going to let the leaders go. Classy move again from CIL drivers.
Absolutely. And KT Jones, you're looking at him right here, trying to chase down John D. Price and jump into that top 4. And when you're that following car, you can start to think about, where is the driver in front of me slower? Where's Price slower? Make Price maybe use a little bit of his stuff and start to bring the battle to him as time goes on.
Absolutely, and I think Price has done a great job this evening. We've seen he's had an up and down race, but he got that fast repair, got out of the pits, and has brought that Porsche all the way back to 5th place from his spot a little bit further down the running order earlier.
You get a good look at the gap over the past 5 laps here. It was opened up to somewhere around 5 seconds. And last lap, KT Jones brought it all the way to nil as they continue to run here at Monza. 8 minutes to go here as they head back into turn number 1.
That is correct, and for those battles on track, they're about to heat up. Guys are going to brake later, get on the gas earlier, push that car a little more. We're going to explore those track limits a little bit further. It's going to be exciting for us and hectic for the drivers as we ride on board this Corvette here. That's the UNLV machine, KT Jones. Down here into turn 2, once everyone gets through turn 1, this is where they have to focus, getting through both curbs straight, staying out of the gravel. Down in here into the fast 2 right-handers. You see 3rd gear for this one, accelerate. Try not to get an off track as you come off, and repeat the process here. Looks like we're going to go down into 3rd gear for that turn. And you can see the weight shifts a ton as he comes off the corner and that banking goes away and he gets on that curb. That's what these drivers are having to battle every time around this Monza racetrack.
Volkert's still holding strong in that 2nd position, trying to close the gap, and trying being the key word. He's got Evans right behind him, and Price and Jones, that battle raging on, and Corey Hart. Don't forget about that driver right there, and even further back, Theodore Burns sneaking by a lapped car, and he's going to limp that Ferrari into maybe a top 7 here tonight.
That is correct. Theodore Burns scored 7th currently, and tough spin for Burns, but he is getting that Ferrari back around for the University of Wisconsin, making the Badgers proud.
The driver's separated by a couple seconds, but any mistake is going to erase that gap. And with 6 minutes to go, you know the driver's going to be gripping that wheel nice and tight. And while that might not be the quickest way around here, a lot of the drivers, and that might be the safest way for them right now, but that's the key. Just take a deep breath, relax, and continue to drive your race. You have enough of a gap for a lot of these drivers that you can really make it work. So we'll see if anyone makes that fatal mistake and maybe drops a couple spots here on these last couple of laps, or if we continue to ride in our current position. Checking back in on your leader, Jared Kaler, and he's one driver that I think is going to be just that calm, cool, and collected all night long.
That is correct, and he's only got 2 or 3 more laps to go here as we start approaching 4 minutes to go according to our in-race ticker. These guys are putting a great show together, and I do wonder, as we are in race 2 of 6 for this season, if I am Folkerts or Evans in the 2nd and 3rd place, separated by a good gap, I'm thinking, all right, let's be smooth, let's get it home, and it will be a good day for the season. There are some incentives to finish at the top of the order, both for yourself and for your school at the end of the season. And so all those guys in a great position. We saw the Porsche of John Price hustling the curbs. We talked about he was up to 5th, has since passed KT Jones for the 4th position and cannot be stopped. We'll see if he tries to make a last dash at that 3rd place and final podium position.
Definitely don't count out John D. Price just yet. He's had speed at Spa, and we talked about that mistake right in front of him. Cohen Evans locked up on the brakes, and now we're going to have a very good battle right here between those two drivers. You're on the nose of John D. Price as he's looking to the side of that machine. We'll see if he sends it in here in the 2nd chicane.
Absolutely fantastic onboard shot as we come through down. Looks like we might be side by side, hard under braking, struggles to keep it together. The UT Austin machine comes out ahead in the second chicane and leads into the two fast right-handers. Stellar driving right there on display.
We talked about it. Who can be calm and make the move when they need to? And boy, it looks like John D. Price jumping into that third spot. He wants an interview after getting a podium, and he is pushing that Porsche as hard as it can go in these final couple laps.
Well, I hope he wants an interview because I have questions after that move. I know that the Porsche of the GTE cars, probably one of the strongest at outbraking. I know that Corvette can move a little bit under braking, and those were the two cars there entering the turn. And so Price coming out on top, but you see the gap not too big there. Still a little bit of time to make a mistake.
So we're going to stay locked in on this battle between Price and Evans. Evans, we mentioned that Indiana school paint scheme, and pretty good looking paint scheme, if I do say so myself. Trying to chase down John D. Price in that UT Austin machine. And they're going to have to deal with a little bit of lap traffic right here. Is the lap car going to go low? We'll see if he gives both positions. Evans flashing the lights. He wants by, and he will get by into that first chicane.
He will get by, and these drivers must be 2 to go. I don't see a white flag, but I know we are running out of time, and these guys are hustling through. Cohen Evans just lost that podium position, and he knows he wants it back.
Evans trying to push the car for everything it's got left. KT Jones seeing what he has left in that UNLV machine. See if he can pick up another spot. We have two drivers who've gained 6 positions. Aaron Folkerts and Cohen Evans. Evans might know that, might have a crew chief in his ear saying you need one more spot for that hard Charger award, and he'll see if he can get it back before the end of this race. Don't forget about Corey Hyatt in that Ford either. That 42 machine might have a little bit of speed left before this one's over. We'll see if he can catch Jones.
He might. He just took a small detour through the S's where he was stayed on track, but had to gather it up getting in as he had to work around that VCU car right there. We follow John Price and looks like Cohen Evans through the S's there. As we go down the hard charge into Parabolica, we remind you that Jared Taylor is on an island out front with a comfortable lead.
Absolutely checking in on the leader here, crossing that start-finish line into the hard braking of turn number 1.
That is correct, and we see the Worcester Polytechnic car, Jake Franklin, come in view, and you see just how big that gap is. We talked about the other drivers taking it easy, and if you are leading this race, Jared Kaler's sole responsibility is to be calm and bring it home, and you might see even his lap times drop off just a hair, and you'd expect that with the gap he's got, the patience for that UNC Charlotte team.
Absolutely. And one of the cool things is some drivers like certain tracks and others don't. Jared Kaler definitely looking like he likes Monza here tonight as we continue here in this one.
He does. We talked about cars, and the BMW has been a power favorite. And iRacing actually came out with a balance of performance update they do every so often, reducing the BMW horsepower by 1.5%, a pretty healthy drawback, but it wasn't enough for the rest of the field, and Jared Kaler is not driving the same car as everyone else. He is on a mission. As you see that Virginia Tech car also in your screen, been running well tonight. That's Tillman Schmidt, and just gives you a little show into how quick Kaler's pace has been all night long.
So checkered flag in the air here, and Jared Kaler going to bring home the win. Brings it down to the inside, flashing the lights on the BMW, and he's got a lot to celebrate after that one. Jared Kaler coming home with the win. Folkert's in second, and look at that gap to Price. Boy, Price brought it close there at the end.
He did, and that Porsche looks like Cohen Evans, and the UNLV car of KT Jones will come across. That will be your top 5. 6th place, Corey Hyatt, and 7th place, the Ferrari, and it looks like another Ferrari will head towards Parabolica now. Alexander Pacini going towards the final turn, and we'll see him come across the line shortly.
Great race for Jared Kaler, and really just an absolutely dominating race all night long for him. And boy, was that cool to watch, with really just fantastic laps. And your fastest lap going to go to Theodore Burns, actually, with a 146.2 here tonight. Jared Kaler's fastest was a 146.4. You can see just how tight all of those lap times are. What an absolutely fantastic race.
It was, certainly, and we were quite excited up here. We'll get the drivers' thoughts shortly. They'll be in the booth with us for the interview, but I think that we saw a little bit of what we expected, maybe what we didn't expect. Was really impressed with John Price putting his Porsche up as far as he did in that 3rd place. Kudos to him. And then, the rest of these guys, we saw the Corvettes. That's the newest car from iRacing, and we expected it to be strong. The BMWs with a ton of horsepower maybe didn't blow us away as much as we expected, with the exception of your winner, Jared Kaler, and that North Carolina at Charlotte machine.
Absolutely. And the second week and our second different winner, and that's what's so cool about the CIL, the Collegiate iRacing League, is it provides that opportunity for a bunch of different drivers to get out and show what they've got in different cars at different tracks. And we got quite the lineup of tracks for you here before the rest of the season is over.
That is correct. We're looking forward to it. Road America's a classic. Imola's a technical masterpiece. Not too far here from Italy, from Monza, where we are in Italy. So those are just a couple of what is coming up for our drivers. Very excited, and we'll have these guys in the booth shortly. It looks like we've pulled up the final run order now.
So you take a look at it right there. Jared Kaler coming home your winner in that 58 machine. Second place is going to be Aaron Fulkert. And in third is John D. Price. Cohen Evan comes away fourth. And KT Jones, a good run for him, jumps up into the 5th spot.
Corey Hyatt in that 42 machine, 6th place. Theodore Burns, we talked about him in that black Ferrari, looking pretty good for the Badgers, despite a bit of off-track excursions. And 7th, Alexander Pacini for the Federal University. Andrew Covell, 9th. Henry Morse in 10th. We saw him looking to see some pace and see what he brings the rest of the season. We saw Henry have a lot of pace and then had a few excursions through the S's. Tillman Schmid for Virginia Tech, and Jake Franklin in that WPI machine. Trey Coleman, James Blausch, Ashwin Sagar round out the top 15.
Cody Fadenhauer, Drew Bowden, and Maximilian Bui round out your top 18. And as we finish that list, that is going to be it. None of the other drivers taking the green flag. And I thought we were going to hear from Mr. Price. It looks like he has since left us. And let's get your race winner, Jared Kaler, into the booth here. And first of all, Jared, congrats on the win. And how did that feel? Because it looked absolutely dominating from up here in the booth.
Not gonna lie, it was pretty terrifying. I saw a lot of people make mistakes, and that just made me even more scared that I was gonna make a mistake. But once I saw Theodore have his problem, I kind of just backed it off a bit, made sure I wasn't making any more mistakes than I needed to be making.
Absolutely. Well, talk to us a little bit about the track tonight. Is Monza typically a track you run well at, or is it maybe just luck of the draw that you were in first and you were able to just kind of stay there all night long?
I bought Monza like right after Spa, so this was the first race I've done on it. But I spent a lot of time putting in laps for the setup and just trying to like learn from the setup because I haven't really done anything open setup besides Spa last couple weeks ago and then this one. So I just mainly did a lot of track time, just trying to learn the track, learn the car, learn like what adjustments did what on the car.
Well, it sounds like you did because we mentioned that we expected more from the BMWs, and we saw that the spread was pretty even. But you outclassed, outran the field. Did you learn anything new in the setup? Was it a little bit of everything? Was there a magic bullet that you found in the car?
Um, I don't really know. I kind of messed a lot with the gears this time around. I was a bit concerned with the balancer performance update that the BMW had, where it kind of decreased the power. So I was a bit concerned through that. But I spent quite a bit of time messing around with like the gear ratios, trying to see if I can get any more power from that.
Absolutely. Well, looks like it paid off. Well, Jared Kaler, congrats on the win. And the floor is yours. Anyone you want to give a quick shout out to on the broadcast here?
Just you guys for setting this up. This is pretty cool. This is pretty much my first league race that I've done, or league series that I've done. So pretty cool that you guys are setting this up and it's pretty professionally run.
Well, thank you for the kind words, and hopefully we see you back up here toward the front and in the interview booth so we can get more of those kind words.
Thank you.
Congrats again. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
So that was Jared Kaler, your winner here tonight in the 58, and you heard it from him. Just kind of a scary race, which I did not expect watching him race all night long.
No, that is correct. And sometimes you find yourself in first place and you didn't quite plan on it. And I do understand what he's saying. All he wanted to do was just race the game, and he did that. But it was a little bit nerve wracking, especially when you're up there for 60 minutes. It's a practice in mental toughness. And can I outrun myself, or am I going to outthink myself, outdrive myself? No, he ran a fantastic race, flawless from Jared Kaler.
Absolutely. So now next into the booth is going to be the 732 of Aaron Folkerts. Aaron, we saw you run kind of up and down for a while there. Talk to us about just how tough it is to come back from an off track or any kind of incident like you might have had here tonight and just keep grinding, especially at a track like Monza where it's so technical at certain points.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it was that Monza's a tough track for me personally. When you go off track, you get off, you kind of get out of your groove, and it's just kind of trying to maintain that mindset of don't make mistakes, don't get any slowdowns. That was mainly my goal today, was just not get any slowdowns, make minimal mistakes, and just try to be consistent. And it turns out it worked out pretty well. People were making mistakes quite a bit. I made a few myself. Was lucky enough to not get any slowdowns. But yeah, Monza's great. These low downforce setups are pretty fun. I could have used a little less wing, I think, in my setup. But yeah, good race overall.
That was one of our storylines of the night. How did you feel the Corvette, probably the newest car to iRacing, how did you feel that it handled Monza, and how did you feel it stacked up against your non-Corvette competitors?
The John or whoever was right around me in the Ford GT, that car was fast. I realized when I was behind him on the straight, I could not gain on him just by drafting. And yeah, the other cars I think are definitely a little bit faster, but all around my experience, the Corvette is a great all around car. And it seems to work pretty well today.
Absolutely. Coming home with a second place finish here tonight, and that's a great start to the season, really. A quick 6-race season. But Mr. Folkerts, the floor is yours. Anyone you want to give a quick shout out to here on the broadcast?
Sure. So I'd like to thank my mom, obviously, and of course, and really VRS. I joined their service, and their videos are a big help. Their tunes are a big help, and Yeah, that's about it.
Well, can't complain about that. Congrats again on that second place finish, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, guys.
So that was Aaron Folkerts, your second place finisher. And interesting to hear from him that the Ford on the straightaways was so crazy quick.
Yeah, and it continues to be exciting that the Ford defies the laws of physics on just a V6 engine due to the aerodynamic way that car is set up. Continues, it was fast in real life at Le Mans. In fact, it won in its debut, and then virtually as well, it has solidified its place in iRacing as a car that's just hard to beat, hard to pass, and it goes quickly.
Absolutely. And speaking of cars that are hard to beat, hard to pass, we bring in our third place finisher, John D. Price, in his Porsche here. And John, once again, back in the booth for you. Talk about how good it feels to be up toward the front of the pack once again.
Well, definitely great considering the mistakes that I had. I had a few too many big mistakes in this one, a couple of small ones too, but I think I finished similarly on the instant points this time around too. I want to say it was 14 or 13 out of 17, which is about what it was last time. So that's something to improve for the next time around. But definitely had good pace today, despite being in a car that I think was really lacking on the straights. I was having a hard time catching guys at the start of the race for sure. In the straights, the Porsche's straight line speed is probably its weak spot. I think it'll be great for Road America and Daytona, but I'm not optimistic for Le Mans. I'll say that much. But outside of that, I was pretty happy with this race overall.
Yeah, we talked about the Porsches, and you were the fastest one. Take us through maybe that last move. Did the car help your braking? We didn't know if we'd get to talk to you this evening, but you put quite the move on Cohen Evans in the Indiana Corvette, going down under really heavy braking. And Jarrett and I were both excited. Tell us about that and how the car played into it.
Yeah, I mean, towards the end of the race, the car really started to come to me. I was really struggling at the start, couldn't find my rhythm. And about, 5 minutes before I took the pit stop, it started to come back to me, and it stayed with me through the pit stop. So that really enabled me to close in and make quite a few moves. I got an round the outside move in Parabolica on, I forget who it was exactly, but that was actually probably more fun than the move you guys are talking about. But it was just, the car under brakes was far better, I think, than was he in a Corvette? I think he was in. I was braking at the 150, and he seemed to brake about 160, 165, and so it was just really no problem. I was able to slide right past. So all up to the car at that point. I think that's the strong point of the Porsche. If you can get it under the brakes, it'll reward you. If not, it'll bite you like it did me earlier in the race. But, stuff happens like that sometimes.
Absolutely. Well, another great run for you here tonight, and the floor is yours. Who do you want to give a quick shout out to on the broadcast?
All my guys from UTA, thanks for helping me out with this stuff again. And Team Hardway Racing, as always, appreciate you guys, and everybody else that was watching and supporting me. I appreciate all you.
Absolutely. Well, always great talking to you. We'll wish you luck, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, sir.
So that was your third place finisher, John D. Price. And always kind of fun to talk to that guy. Always super excited about the race, and always gives us really good analysis of the car, I think. And that's a true testament to some of these drivers. You can just hear how they're able to describe what the car did all race long. You heard him talk 5 laps before a pit stop. Just information like that just shows us how good so many of these guys are.
No, it's absolutely fantastic. And you heard him talk about racing, race teams, and the like. And some of these guys have been dabbling, in different styles of motorsports and have brought it here to the virtual world. And it's great to see. And you're right. He was excited, and I would be too if I had just done those moves. I remember he was referring to his move around the outside through Parabolica to pass Corey Hyatt in the 4GT. And that was quite a move that we caught as well. And I would be excited too.
Absolutely. And we're going to turn it over to nextbookit.com. We're going to hear from them very quickly, and then we'll bring it back to us up here in the booth. We'll see you after 60 seconds.
For college students, books are expensive. Buying and selling them is frustrating, and it even hurts. We get it. But there's a better way that doesn't have to feel like this. With Next Book It, skip the bookstores and buy and sell books exclusively to other students on any campus. It's easy to use and it makes life less stressful. Buying and selling books just got easier. Just Next Book It.
All right, so great to hear from nextbookit.com, and still with us up here in the booth is the founder and owner. Derek, you want to give us your thoughts on the race?
I was really excited to be here tonight and get to watch it. And Kaylor looked like just kind of honestly killed it tonight. I mean, that was an incredible performance. So, but it was good to get to really sit in on this whole thing and be here with y'all. And so, thank y'all for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for hopping in, hanging out with us. It sounded like you had a big surprise for Next Book fans. Tell us a little bit more.
Yes, and this is for anybody that's a participant in the CIL or just watching the broadcast. But we're getting really close to rolling out in the Google Play and the Apple App Store, and so we're actually offering an early access promo that's available to our first 100 users on the site right now. So if you go to any of our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, you can get more information about that. But if you're posting item on nextbookit.com right now, if you sign up, create an account, post an item, you get $10 free from Cash App from us. So that's something that's out there and available for any student that's just a participant or watching. And if you're another exclusive offer just for the CIL specifically, if you mentioned that you heard about it during this broadcast, you're a part of the CIL, we can offer you a role as an ambassador, and you can get $5 for every person you refer to Next Book It.
Well, that's awesome, and that's exciting, and certainly fantastic to see growth on the horizon. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you so much for having me tonight.
Absolutely. Great to have you up here in the booth with us, and always great to hear about what you're doing, not only for us, but for yourself as well. And we do really wish you the best. And if anyone has any questions about anything that he just mentioned, let us know in the chat, let us know in the Discord, let us know in 2 weeks' time. We'll still all be here, and we can still answer any questions you might have. Derek, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you so much, y'all.
All right, so as we wrap this one on up, Josh, any closing thoughts here for you as we get set to go?
I'm looking forward to round 3. I think it was really exciting tonight. We had some surprises. We had some new faces up front, had some new paint schemes, and I think that the standing is going to be a little bit shaken up, and I think it's going to be exciting to see who finds themselves as we continue this season. Now, 2 of 6 races completed, Spa and Monza in the books, and we're going to look forward in 2 weeks.
Yep, in 2 weeks' time, we go to Le Mans, and that's one of the toughest tracks that we're going to visit in this condensed 6-race season. You're going to have 4 5-minute lap times, hopefully not 5 minutes for a lot of the guys, but closer to 4-minute lap times for a lot of these drivers. And it's just such a difficult track because you have these long straightaways and then these hard braking zones and these intricate little turns. We think about the Porsche curves. We think about some of the backstretch chicanes, the PlayStation chicane. And it's a lot of time to be gained and lost in those very technical parts of the track. But keep in mind, a lot of the track is also those straightaways. So it's going to be an interesting mix of racing. I'll be very curious to see what manufacturers we see dominate at Le Mans.
Absolutely. We continue to see John Price and his Porsche. Perhaps he'll bring it again. And he'll be real quick through the fast transitions. The Porsche curves, no pun intended, are going to suit that car. We talked about the Ford GT. That's going to drive some drivers mad when they try to draft, catch up, and they can't because the Ford GT does not like to return the draft. We've not seen a ton of the Corvette on the Le Mans circuit, and I think we're going to learn a lot about our cars, our drivers, and I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Well, like Josh mentioned, in 2 weeks' time, so not next week, but the following week, same time, same place, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll take the green flag from Le Mans, and it should be a good one. Josh, as always, thanks again for joining the booth with us here tonight.
It's a pleasure, and I am looking forward to 2 weeks from now.
Alrighty, that's going to do it from us up here in the booth. Hope you guys enjoyed at home. Stay tuned, and special shout out to Zach on Whack for that subscription. Much appreciated. All the love, and thank you very much. So be sure to tune back in, and until then, take it easy, stay safe, and we'll talk to you guys again soon.